On Sunday night in Bondi, 2 gunmen opened fire on Jewish families. 16 people, including one of the gunmen, are confirmed dead, making the tragedy Australia's first mass shooting in nearly 30 years. A further 42 people were taken to hospital, as well as the second gunman, who is under police guard. ASIO has confirmed one of the gunmen was known to them, and there are reports the men are linked to Islamic State. As authorities grapple with the terror event, the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will put tougher gun laws to National Cabinet. I'm Ruby Jones, and you're listening to 7am. Today, federal member for Wentworth Allegra Spender on how the Bondi community is responding to this tragedy and what needs to change to keep Jewish Australians safe. It's Tuesday, December 16. Allegra, thank you so much for speaking with me today. You're in North Bondi now, just metres from where this attack happened. Can you describe to me what's been happening at Bondi today?
Today, people from all over the community, people who were there, people who weren't there, are coming down, sharing grief, laying flowers and talking to each other. And it has been an absolutely devastating day for the whole of the Bondi community and especially for the Jewish community.
Can you tell me a bit about the conversations that you've been having with people in the Jewish community?
I think there is an enormous sense of fear, sense of grief, sense of anger, a whole range of emotions that I've seen today. I spoke to one woman. She said, "I'm the 8th generation Australian from a Jewish community," and she said, I'm scared, that we will never be safe here. That is so terrible to hear that. I've seen, people very angry, and then stories of some of the people we lost, like the Rabbi Elishanger, and as someone described him to me this morning, and this rings completely true with my experience of him, he woke up every morning with the goal of how can you do some good each day. He was a very, very, very special man, and his death is absolutely devastating.
Yeah, he's one of the 15 people who were killed on Sunday night. Can you tell me a bit more about the other victims?
Well, there are a range of victims. One of them is a 10-year-old girl called Matilda. What name, is more Australian than that? And, that's her family. We have a Holocaust survivor, people who went to extraordinary lengths to look after each other in a horrific moment. And just, to be honest, the fear that I have seen in the community, not just the Jewish community, but the whole community who was there, is overwhelming.
And you mentioned the stories of heroism as well. I'm sure most people now have seen the video of a civilian who approached one of the gunmen and disarmed him. His name is Ahmed Al-Ahmed. He's a fruit shop owner from the south of Sydney. What did you think when you saw that footage?
I thought he was the bravest man I've ever seen. Someone to symbolise what it means to be Australian, to stand up for what you believe is right, he is unbelievable. I think he's a international hero. He saved lives yesterday, and we must all be grateful for him, standing up and being an incredible Australian.
And it's been confirmed that one of the attackers had a gun licence and had amassed 6 guns legally, which were used in the attack. The Prime Minister has said he's going to take tougher gun laws to National Cabinet now for consideration.
Tougher gun laws, including limits on the number of guns that can be used or licensed by individuals. A review of licences over a period of time. People's circumstances change. People can be radicalised over a period of time. Licences should not be in perpetuity. And checks, of course, making sure that those checks and balances are in place as well.
Is that overdue?
I think it's absolutely right that we do this. I know that there has been, a lot of concern out there about, the sort of delay in some aspects of sharing firearms and licences and those sorts of things across the country. So that is really important. But I think, there is much, much, much other work that needs to be done.
And ASIO have said that one of the shooters was known to them, yet the two were able to amass a lot of firepower. So will you be asking how that could have been allowed to happen?
Absolutely. And I think that is one of those. There are many questions to be answered, and one of them is how that happened and what was known about this person and why this person was not seen as an ongoing threat from ASIO. These are very important questions that the community is asking and that we need answers to.
And this is clearly a targeted anti-Semitic attack in an environment when we've seen increasing displays of anti-Semitism. You've said that there have been missteps by the government in tackling this. So what do you think they are?
Look, I think this has been building. So anti-Semitism has been growing in this country for the last over 2 years, since the October 7 attacks. And what you have seen over this time is people be more brazen and people need to be honestly more socially acceptable. People say, well, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm just anti-Zionist, recognising that around 80% plus of Australian Jews are Zionists. So in some cases, that is an absolute cover for anti-Semitism. So in terms of the missteps, I think, as so many Jewish Australians will tell me that it started on October 9th with the protest outside the Opera House and not enough strong condemnation. There are many things and many moments, I'm sure, that I wonder if we had taken a stronger police response then, if we had a more coordinated approach then, if we had spoken up more strongly, would things have been changed? Certainly one area I will continue to fight on is law reform in relation to hate speech, because I think, there are people in this country, around this country, where we disagree, and that's really appropriate. But where people start to spread hate, that is where we need to draw really bright lines. There will be a lot of analysis after this to see what actually went wrong yesterday, but the build-up of anti-Semitism has been happening over a long period of time.
How do you think about the need to balance keeping Jewish Australians safe with the right for Australians to protest war in the Middle East?
People's right to protest is really important, and I have, always supported that. But the question I ask everyone, and I think we all need to think about today, is what are my actions doing in terms of both my local community and the international community? Are my individual actions making this country better and safer for all of us and for the world? I think those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves every day. I try and come back to what Australia stands for, modern Australia. The country is a place where our security, our acceptance is not based on your religion, your ethnicity, your sexuality. That is what modern Australia is about. And I think that's really important to me right now, because people were targeted by terrorists on the basis of their faith, and that is completely un-Australian. And I think collectively we need to stand up against that anti-Semitism and say no Australian should be targeted on the basis of their faith like the Jewish community was yesterday.
After the break, the risk of politicising a tragedy. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has blamed Anthony Albanese, saying the Prime Minister poured fuel on the anti-Semitism fire in recognising a Palestinian state. The opposition leader, Susan Lee, has also blamed the Prime Minister. Given that there are reports that one of the gunmen was investigated for supporting Islamic State back in 2019, what is your response to that?
I think we need to understand what happened yesterday before we try and apportion blame on people. I've been clear. I think that the government has made missteps, but we do not know that if any of the missteps that have made, whether that contributed to yesterday or not, we just don't know.
And when you say missteps, can you tell me any more about what you think those missteps are?
Look, I think, this has been going on for the last 2 years. So it can be, was the government fast enough bring together police? And, I'm not just talking about the federal government here. I'm talking about also the state government. We've had protests. Many people are concerned about some sort of extreme content in some of the protests, and that hasn't been policed effectively enough. There are many different steps. Again, I don't say that, one step has led to yesterday. But I think it is going to take more than just changes to laws and more than just stepping up in policing. It is also going to take a collective, I think, awakening from the broader community about, the seriousness of what the community is facing and how important it is for all of us in what we say online, what we do, how we treat each other, to disagree, but disagree respectfully. And that is really, really important.
Yeah, what do you think it would take to make the Jewish community feel safe again in Australia?
I think that's an incredibly hard question, because I think many people in the Jewish community don't know if they ever will feel safe again, honestly, after this. But I think it is up to all of us, because that's what this country is based on. This country is based on the idea that it doesn't matter your faith, it doesn't matter your sexuality or, where you come from, you should be safe and welcome here. So what would it take? I think it starts with attitude, and it starts with people collectively right now saying we stand with the Jewish community. And what I'm asking of everyone I know is, please reach out to Jewish Australians whether they're colleagues, whether they're friends, and just say we are here with you and we are standing by you today. And what I have heard again from the community today is, in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months, we cannot let these memories fade. We need to remember that there are extremists out there trying to tear the country apart, and we need to collectively stand up and fight them, and particularly, and those who are spreading anti-Semitism, we need to draw very bright lines around that.
And as you say, it has been such a short time since the attack happened. We don't know very much about these men and their ideology yet. So what do you think the risk is in apportioning blame, whether that is to the Prime Minister or to protesters who marched across the Sydney Harbour Bridge, before we fully understand what has actually happened here?
I think that is you're right. There are risks in doing that. And I think this can be an incredibly important turning point for Australia, where we collectively say what we stand for, and in a very positive way reaffirm our Australian values, which are the best values in the world. So I think you are right to say that it is dangerous to apportion blame, and it is dangerous to try and divide our country right now. And I think that's where come back to the common values and be careful. Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, Allegra, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Also in the news, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has vowed to introduce tougher gun control laws, including limiting the number of firearms someone could have and an audit of existing licences. The Prime Minister says reforms introduced by John Howard in the wake of the Port Arthur massacre made an enormous difference, but indicated the government will examine whether any restrictions can be tightened. He also says he wants to see greater uniformity across states and territories. And the United States Special Envoy says a lot of progress has been made in talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to end the war in Ukraine. A meeting between Zelensky and a US delegation that includes Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is taking place in Berlin. Reports from the ongoing negotiations suggest President Zelensky has offered to drop Kiev's aspirations to join the NATO military alliance in exchange for Western security guarantees. I'm Ruby Jones. This is 7am. Thanks for listening.